Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest Smart Cities World webinar brought to you today in conjunction with JETRO, the Japanese External Trade Organization. I'm Luke Antonio, the editor at Smart Cities World, and I will be your moderator for the next hour or so. So I'm pleased to be joined today by some fantastic speakers and great innovators to take an in-depth look into Kyoto's startup community, each one representing a very different part of it. So our speakers today are Hiroyuki Suzuki, Executive Vice President, Representative Director at the Advanced Telecommunications Research Institute International, also known as ATR. Robert Kunzman, CMO at AC Biode. Lotfi El-Hafi, President and Founder of Korobo GK. Soji Nagano, Chief Design Officer at Koero. Ayumi Matera, CEO of Mitsufuji Corporation. And last but certainly not least, Tsubasa Sugai, CEO of SpiceCube. So we'll hear from each of those guys individually today to understand how their businesses are really impacting smart cities and urban living, and more generally, how Keihanna Science City provides a unique incubation setting for innovative startups. Before I hand over to our first speaker today, just a brief reminder to those of you watching live that you can send your questions in for a live Q&A session that follows today's presentations for any of the speakers as we go, and we will make sure we answer as many of them as we can before we wrap up in just under an hour's time. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over for our first presentation. That's over to you, Hiroyuki.
So thank you very much for your introduction, Luke-san. So let me share my screen. So I'm Suzuki of ATL and also the president of Cross-Border Innovations, CrossBI in short. Today, I'd like to talk about Keihanna Global Innovation Ecosystem for a human-centric smart city by local and global co-creation. So let me first explain a bit about Keihanna Science City. Keihanna Science City is located in the western part of Japan, in the middle of Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto, and Nara. It looks like this 30 years ago, but it developed quite fast and constantly, and it looks like this now. Keihanna Science City is located by more than 150 R&D related organizations, such as universities, research institutes, R&D centers, industries. And Keihanna Science City is one of the key players of the Keihanna region, composed of Osaka, Kyoto, Kobe, which was selected as one of the 4 global startup cities of Japan by the Japanese government last July. So you can also find a lot of houses are located near institute. And actually you can count on these local residents in carrying out POCs. In fact, local residents are willing to participate in POC in the field of smart city, such as energy, healthcare, agriculture, mobility, and municipal services. Keihanna Science City also the place for Smart City Expo. We will have 8th edition of Kyoto Smart City Expo, which will be held online in 10 days. With a theme, region, and industries to create sustainable and livable future, creating a meta-comfort smart society. So we started construction of Global Innovation Collaboration Network about 4.5 years ago, and started with a collaboration with 41 organizations in 4 countries. And it develops also rapidly and constantly. And now we are working with a global organization as large as more than 600 organizations, including more than 220 organizations in 23 countries. Our core partners are composed of Spain, Barcelona, Israel, India, Canada, and New York City in the US. More specifically, we are working with Israel Innovation Authority, Barcelona Activa, National Research Council of Canada, and JETRO in public sectors, as well as the Confederation of Indian Industries and NESCOM in India, and Entrepreneurs Roundtable Accelerator in New York City in private sectors. The collaboration, Global Innovation Collaboration Network is still expanding. We have recently started the collaboration with Innovation RCA in London, and State of Bavaria in Germany, and Embassy of Finland, and some provinces in Canada, Quebec and Alberta, by carrying out a collaboration event, accepting startup for our acceleration program, and take our startup to special program held either in UK or Germany. What we try to achieve is first to construct a two-dimensional collaboration network with our core 5 partners, acting Keihanna Science City as a hub. What I mean two-dimensional is, for instance, we accept a Barcelona startup and try to match them with USA investors as well as partners in Canada. And then try to connect this collaboration network with Japanese market and tech society. To realize this, we take 2 approaches. The first one is solution-initiated approach, in which we first understand the solution of startups, not only Japanese, but overseas, participating in our acceleration program, Akegia Plus, and try to connect them with Japanese enterprises or hospitals with issuer pains, which was matched by the solution of startups. We do not have any consortium, so this is a completely open system. The other approach is issue-driven approach. We first hear about the issue or pains of Japanese enterprises and try to solve them with the aid of global startups, which was carried out our platform called Cosine or Cosine Plus. In this fiscal year, we are carrying out acceleration program, Akegia Plus, batch 5 and 6, as well as our business project creation program, Cosine Plus and Cosine. The Akegia Plus is, as I mentioned, the acceleration program in Keihanna Science City. It lasts 3 months and held twice a year in summer and winter, totally now carried out online. We set a goal to do a POC or pilot testing with Japanese companies or hospital, and the startups participating in the program can access to our global partners to expand their business outside Japan. We first do local challenges and select about 10 to 15 startups for main programs. And the main program lasts 3 months, as I mentioned. We first listen to their business model and technology and try to connect them with Japanese companies. And the selected 5 startups are taken to special program held either in Europe or United States. The activity was co-hosted and cooperated various type of organizations as listed here. These are co-hosted by our core partners and local governments, as well as cooperated by embassies and the companies in financial sectors and industries, as well as local governments and law firms whatsoever. Up to now, we have accepted totally 63 startups from 9 countries as listed here: Japan, Israel, Canada, the USA, India, Spain, Finland, Hong Kong, and Germany. These startups can be classified into 15 fields of technology, as shown here. You may feel the field of technology, the number of field technology is too large. But the reason why is we do not restrict any field of technology. We request startups. It's 2 things. The first thing is they need to have a strong interest in business in Japan. And also they need to have services and products enough to do a POC or pilot testing with Japanese companies. Up to from batch 1 to 4, we have accepted totally 48 startups. Among these 48 startups, we have succeeded in matching with Japanese companies for 40 startups, which means the matching ratio is as high as more than 83%. These are the example of Japanese enterprises matched with global startups in our acceleration program. You may find a big name of Japanese industries as well as local small companies in Kyoto. So some example of POC accomplishments before the spread of COVID-19. Together, the Israel startups now change their name to Solo, was worked with Gakkentos Hospital. It's a hospital in Keihanna Science City in POC with music therapy for patients with dementia. The POC was really successful, so we made a joint press release. And ASTEM is the Japanese startups which try to detect the sleepiness of bus driver by brain activities. So we are now carrying out the batch 5, and the main program is just finishing in 10 days. We did a local challenge, 5 local challenges, and select 15 startups from 8 countries. And we started the main program the end of July, and we will have a demo day in November 12th at the occasion of Kyoto Smart City Expo 2021 and the ATL Open House 2021. And we will select 5 startups which has a chance to have a special program either with Innovation RCA in London and OS Easy in Bayern. In parallel, we are now carrying just finished a local challenge, which was started in October 5th with Innovation RCA challenge, and just finished yesterday with Israel challenge. And we will start the main program in the middle of this month with selected 15 startups, and finish it, the main program in 3 months with a demo day held maybe in Osaka area. So from now on, I want to explain the Kosain, which is, as I explained, issue-driven platform to solve the issue of Japanese companies. First, we hear the issue or pain of Japanese companies and try to construct best effort team to solve the issue affordably and rapidly. So we sometimes ask global startups to join the team. Sometimes we ask Japanese academia to solve the team also. During the last 2 or 3 years, we have had 11 projects in the Kosain project, as listed here. And one example of Kosain project is the project made with Torre Construction, the Elegant Monkeys. It's Israel startups and ATL. We signed an agreement of joint implementation and try to get scientific evidence that the sand culture, a new type of agriculture, is effective in reducing your stress level. What we did is we did a very big POC with somewhere around 200 subjects, which comes from Keihanna Science City mostly, and actually succeeded in finding that the sun culture is really effective in reducing your stress level. But in Kosain platform, we had a small problem that who will pay the cost of the POC. So this will be partly solved by the new type of platform called Kosain Plus, in which our partners in Canada and Israel can pay the half amount of money needed to do a POC. We started the first area is smart city and mobility. It is in progress, and fortunately, 6 Japanese companies joined the program with issue together with POC environment, which I mean is in-kind resources. And 16 Canadian startups applied this program, and now we try to make a matching with these 6 Japanese companies and 16 Canadian startups. And we will plan to have second and third program in healthcare and agri-tech and food tech in next month or this month. And one example of Kosain Plus project in food tech and agri-tech is that we work with Wazuka town, which is a depopulated area in Kyoto. But as you can see the picture, it has a very beautiful scenery with tea plantation, but they have the problem of depopulation. So what we try to do is to solve the issue given by Wazuka town with connecting Canadian startups. And Wazuka town gave us 3 types of issues as shown here, and 2 companies applied to solve the issue. And we will try to match with these companies and the Wazuka town shortly. So the Keihanna Science City used to be a place for basic science and scientists write papers, but now changing dramatically. Not only the place for basic science, but also for the place for implementing state-of-the-art technology in human life. For instance, the aging or new normal life and societies. And we will have a very big event in 4 years, Expo 2025, Osaka and Kansai, in which Keihanna Science Cities are located. And we are expected to play a major role to contribute to this big event, not only in science, but also in innovation. To proceed further, we launched a new company called Cross-Border Innovations, CrossBI in short, in which we do companies issue-driven startup acceleration, as well as investment, not only for Japanese startups, but also overseas startups. So if you have a chance to work with, you have a lot of chances here in Keihanna Science City. So you can be matched with Japanese enterprises. You can conduct a POC with Japanese enterprises together with local residents. You can find Japanese strategic partners, and you can be connected with leading global innovation partners. You can raise funds from Japanese investors, including ourselves. And you can do R&D with leading Japanese research institute, including ATI. Thank you very much for your kind listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Really appreciate your insights there, and I think what comes across is just the sheer scale of how the region, how the area is helping innovation and helping these companies to take the next step in their journey. And next we're going to hear from one of those. I have a few questions for you, but I will save those until the end, and we have some from the audience as well, so keep those coming in. But right now I'm going to bring in our next speaker, which is Robert at AC Bio. So over to you, Robert.
Thank you very much, Luke. It's a pleasure to be here today. And just to warm you all up, I want to see who is excited to be here today. Just give me a hands up on the bottom. You can raise your hand. And I want to see loads of hands up here today. Yeah, that's good. Keep it going. Right. I'm excited today to share my screen with you. Can you see my full screen?
We can, yes.
Amazing. AC BioLabs are remote green facilities for sanitation. And the reason we're here today is because this is a pressing issue in the 21st century. You might not think of toilets as a problem, but they require vast amounts of infrastructure, electricity, or even water. And that's not available everywhere. In cities, yes, but think about those regions where one of those is a problem. What do? You might put these plastic toilets that you're probably familiar with. And I don't know if it's just me, but my memories with these toilets are not always pleasant. The smell, the bacteria, and then at the end of the day, it's just chemical toilets. But what do you do if you produce a lot of sewage? It's not good for the environment. You can't just put it into rivers. You can't even just put it on fields. There are things in chemicals in there that are harmful for the environment. And that is especially the case if you're talking about regions where you cannot just put a sewage network, or you're just there temporarily, or the money isn't there. Or, for example, events where there are so many people for a short amount of time that it's very hard to scale the solutions and have an adequate sanitation program available. And this is a growing problem all over the world, and we are here to solve this. AC Biolet provides over 40 different types and sizes of compost toilets with our patented technology, where we use any type of wood chip, but our machines process the material and the toilet waste in a smell neutral way. So there's no need for a sewage system, there's no smell, and what comes out is completely biocompostable. It means you can, for example, put it straight on your fields without any chemical processing necessary. And this is why we're here today, to show you that yes, you can have a traditional toilet, but what do you do if there's no connection to a sewage network? You might put those mobile toilets, but their capacity is very limited, and you might end up emptying them every week, which leads to running costs that are very high. Whereas the AC Biolet is compacted in a way that you might only have to empty it once every 4 months. And this reflects in the operating costs on an annual level. Very cheap, someone just goes and empties it. There's nothing else that needs to be done. Whereas with chemical toilets, you have huge costs of running them on a daily basis. Now, I want to involve the audience here and see some answers in the chat. Where do you think those toilets would be useful? Just write some ideas here. I'm going to open the chat up and see what people think here. Where have we deployed those toilets, and where will we deploy them, and what kind of places do you think? Where would you put a toilet like that? Festivals. Festivals is a fantastic place because they're more and more concerned with their green image, and those chemical toilets, they're just not doing the job anymore. So festivals is one thing we are starting to look in especially in Europe now as well. Natural parks, yes. And the reason nature parks, more than festivals even, is that they are completely off the grid, somewhere remote. They might not even have electricity or water, and they're very concerned with nature. People come there to enjoy the nature, and the last thing they want is to have to think about what happens with the chemical waste they're producing. Yeah, very good answers there. Thank you very much for your participant, Augustine. And we have some more scenarios you might not have thought about. Nursing homes. These are small toilets that can go in the room of the elderly people, so they don't have to go out and to do their business, because they're very weak and they want to have everything close by in their room. And natural disasters or refugee camps in general. Remote areas we already talked about. Construction sites is something you might not have thought about, but it's actually a huge issue where you're just there for 6 months and you need facilities for hundreds of workers. What do you do? And this is where AC Biolet shines. Areas with limited water, we already talked about that. Ships, that is an interesting one. Local toilets on ships that do not need water because water is scarce on ships. Resorts, nature parks, and even for your pets. So any pet lovers out there, AC Biolet has you covered. This is one of our largest machines. This is what it can look like. It's made in Japan, high quality technology. We've got over 24 different honors and prizes for our, not just technology, but also for our social engagement of really trying to make a change out there. This is our team. We met originally at Cambridge and at Kyoto University. And if you're a potential customer, just get in touch with us. We will build and ship and install it. And you only have to empty it once every 4 months. This was it from AC Biolet. Thank you so much. You've been an amazing audience today. Send me an email or add me on LinkedIn. I'm here to answer your questions later at the panel as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Robert. It's really great to see how something that seems so simple can make such a significant difference, especially in some of those use cases that the audience sent in. Remember, do send your questions in for Robert for the Q&A session later on. I have a few of my own, obviously, I always do. But now for our next presentation, allow me to introduce Lotfiel Haffey, President and Founder of Korobo. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction. I hope you can hear me well. So I am Lotfi El Haffey, President and Founder of Korobo GK, which is a young startup in the Kyoto area. And before moving into what we do, first, I'd like to tell you how it started a few years ago. Actually, it started in 2016, and the founders, actually, me included, while doing their PhD in robotics and AI-related field, were very interested in robotics competition, international robotics competition, and we started by trying to win the Airbus Chauffeur Challenge, and amazingly we could do it. And then we moved with a bigger team on the Amazon Robotics Challenge, and again we got the finalist prize. And more recently we tackled the World Robot Summit in Japan. And as you can see on this slide, actually from the three initial founders of Korobo JK, we could grow a team with many students from universities and engineers from companies such as Panasonic. And actually during that time, we could well experiment many things, and we noticed quite a big gap between let's say the research approach, like open source publication, and in academia, and the innovation process with patents, for example, in the industry. And as we were working in the middle of all of that, we decided in 2019 to build Korobo GK to bridge that gap. And at the time, we decided that our mission was, for short, try to educate other experts in the field of AI and robotics, doing research consulting on this very specific solution they need to find, share also knowledge in more academia approach, and provide tooling to our partners and customers. So we built our team and we set the bar quite high. Actually, we wanted all of us to be at PhD level, to be able really to have this discussion between experts to solve specific issues happening in other companies or even universities. So in our startup, we are really, each of us has a specific, is expert in a specific field, such as robotics perception or integration manipulation, but also autonomous navigation, data mining, etc. So also, although we're based in Japan, and like Mr. Suzuki, we're actually in the ATR, we are quite international with many backgrounds coming together in our company. And not only actually we provide this research consulting service in the field of robotics and AI, also we notice that having a strong software development environment, a strong platform to work as a team is very important. And while actually building our solutions for robotics competition and integrating with many research groups, we started to develop our own framework. And the idea is that we wanted to focus on either research or the task assigned to us, and not much on, you know, testing the solutions, doing simulation in the cloud, etc. So we built our own framework, and using many open source tools that you can easily integrate with your, you know, proprietary software or closed source system. And more specifically, our company is focusing on building pipeline to test a solution in robotics and AI. So if you'd like to do automated unattended simulation in the cloud using some robotic system, you can actually ask us to provide ideas and solutions. So although our, you know, scope is quite large, here's few use cases for you. If you're in academia working as an educator or as a researcher, you can ask us to build for you system an environment to quickly actually implement your research and integrate in collaborative research group. If you are more in the industry and you work as a team member in a team or as a roboticist, you can ask us to build a very reliable system so you can reproduce your demonstration or test your product easily in cloud environment. So this is the kind of use case we are very eager to tackle and to help you with. So to wrap up, as I said, we're based in Japan, in Kyoto, in the ATR. You can reach us anytime. The best way is actually to check our webpage on at quadrobot.com. And I really hope to get in touch soon with you. Thank you very much. This is the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much indeed, Lotfi. What you're doing is really, really fascinating. And I think we see it has potential applications across so many different areas and verticals, which actually is a great fit for our audience here today, which comes from a real variety of backgrounds. For our audience watching, wherever you're watching, do send in your questions for Lotfi for the Q&A at the end of the hour, and we'll get those answered shortly. But for now, on to our next presentation and our next startup. We are going to be hearing from Soji Nagano at Kyoto. Over to you.
Thanks, Luke. Let me share my screen first. Oh, hi, everyone. My name is Soji Nagano. I'm Chief Design Officer of Kyoto Inc. Kyoto is based in Kyoto. We are the Kyoto-based IT startup that specializes in the voice of consumer, voice of customer data. Koe means voice, and eru means get in Japanese. So our solution basically get your voice of customer for your business. Koeru, another meaning in Japanese is crossing borders. So we are very pleased to talk about our solution for the first time for the audience beyond Japan. VOC. So for Smart City Initiative, everyone understands the importance to understand what the customer needs and customer's experience through the data. So there's 4 types of VOC data: question and answers, or survey data, from communities, and voice from third-party platforms like SNS, and also big data. Voice of customer data itself is nothing new, but how you collect and how you connect is the key, in which that makes us different from other VOC providers. A lot of VOC solutions fail to meet their goals. We think the reason is because that the VOC is that one of the data who only exists where that the both for those who give the data and also for those collect the data, those motivations for both sides need to be taken into account, so that the voice data is accumulating like in the water into the one space. For those who have done the survey before, are you motivated? For those who have to collect the survey, are you motivated to collect data? A lot of problems that are challenging that each side is facing. That's what we are solved for. How we do it? Because that the voice of consumer is that more psychological data, and also a lot of user motivations and also psychological data. So we apply design thinking first to understand that each users for both sides, what their needs, what their situation, what their motivation. So we start with the empathize. And next, that we also define that problems or challenges that each side is facing. Those two combined, and we do that interviews or observation, and then next ideate. The design that the ideal VOC blueprint, like the building house like architect. Then we have our own product as an MVP. So we kind of customize, create the prototype of the VOC platform, and then keep testing to create that ideal platform for our clients. Like we building the house over and over again. So that's how we do. This is one of the examples that we designed VOC platform for the smart city initiative. So we are still new, but we have designed this platform for the Kyoto, Kamakura, and also Tohoku and other DMO and the local governments. Usually, typical smart cities initiative is focused on the data, but their focus on data is creating the data platform, connecting the IoT data, the audience data online and offline, and also the first-party data. But what's usually missing is the voice of consumer, because the data have to be accumulated over time. So that's why we are here to build the platform to connect the VOC into the data platform for the action. How we do, as you can see, there's a lot of different blocks that we have each product for. For example, VOC collector is that system that our clients can collect the voice from their community or their citizens or tourists or all different customers, through the surveys, quiz, discussion, marketing, all different activities. And VOC communities, basically, we allow that our clients to utilize their touch point to create their own community. And then, that's where that community members can motivate to give us the data. And the motivator is the one who looking at each different motivation, why they are motivated to give us data. Some people motivate for the points, some monetary, some people non-monetary, and some people genuinely give the data to believe that their voices can solve the problem in the society. We call survey for good. We create all database and then visualize and then make an action. That's how we do. And we've been working together with each smart city in Japan and also beyond that, Japan. To sum up, what makes us different from the other, the existing solution is the first of all, we are design thinking IT startup. We give that position, we are the co-creation model. And our products is that customizable and scalable. We take into the ROI, so make that voice to bring that actual return. Because a lot of VOC, initiative, voice not collected or more expensive to collect the data. So a lot of the challenge in terms of ROI. We also help the local government and the DMO to become from digital to DX. And most importantly, and this is that approach that we can build the platform for the sustainable VOC driven initiative. Time is limited, and I'd like to hear more about what your needs and what your trends in terms of VOC. So please free to contact us anytime through the email first. Thank you very much for your listening.
Thank you very much. And like you say, I'm fascinated to hear what you're doing. Voice of consumer, that data is so important for so many industries. And I suppose in the last year and a half, it's very easy to imagine with the COVID-19 pandemic, how much more important that feedback and that data has been for organizations, regions and cities. We'll pick that thread up again shortly in the Q&A. So do send your questions in for that. For our next presentation, we are going to be hearing from Ayumi Matera, CEO at Mitsufuji Corporation, which is doing some amazing work in the wearable technology space. So over to you.
Thank you very much. My name is Ayumi Mitera, CEO of Mitsufuji Corporation, and I'd like to introduce my company and my solutions. And Mitsufuji Corporation is the Kyoto-based company that's celebrating its 65th anniversary this year. We have the head office in Kyoto and a satellite office in Tokyo, and the factory in Fukushima as the manufacturing base. Our business details development, manufacture, and sales of silver metallized conductive fiber, AGPOS, and products using AGPOS, the wearable IoT solutions, the Hammond, for both medical purpose and conventional usages. Our strengths are AGPOS as sensors, continuous and accurate the heart rate data, acquired by our smartware and data analyzed by our unique algorithm. These three strengths make us differentiate from others. About the history, we are born in Kyoto in 1956 as a Nishijin, the kimono company. Then developed the silver metallized fibers and eventually launched a wearable solution called Hamon, using this conductive fiber as sensors. The Hamon was featured by CES, Osaka G20 Summit, and we received the first Forbes Japan Small Giants for Grand Prix that evaluated to have a brilliant technology and a potential to change the world. We are choosing to be the 91st out of 500 companies in technology field in the Financial Times Asia Pacific High Growth Companies ranking in 2020. This year, we have launched the new wristband wearable to visualize heat stroke risks in advance. Let me share with you our mission. What we aim to do is to understand undetected research and sudden changes in physical condition by acquiring the continuous and accurate our own vital data daily. What make it possible is we are the only company in the world that has a one-stop process from silver metallized fiber to cloud algorithm systems. Hamon consists of comfortable and stretchable woven smartwear with knitted sensor inside made of edge posts to collect a user's heart rate data and capture it in a tiny transmit device. This device transmits the data to the user's smartphone via the Bluetooth. The data is analyzed by our unique algorithm and reveals the useful insight on the user's health condition, like stress level and drowsiness, warning signs of heat stroke and falls. The data that is accumulated in cloud system as well, so that other people like your family or supervisors can view the data too. Let me introduce some case studies. As Japan is facing the major social issues of declining the birth rate and aging population, the Hamon is used mainly for construction and factory workers to monitor their health condition to protect them. It is used for the long distance drivers who tend to get tired and sleepy after a long drive. Hamon plays a role of alerting drowsiness and tiredness. By doing so, they are more likely to take the rest earlier that leads to prevent them from the car accidents. Hamon is introduced in the daycare center to monitor the babies, especially at nap time, that it gives caseworks and alert when babies sleep with their face down. Hamon is also introduced to middle school students to detect warning signs of heat stroke during sports activities outside in summer. In this case, none of students collapsed and were hospitalized. As you can see now, the Hamon system has been introduced to various industries and fields. Let me share with you our brand new wristband device called Hamon Band. This can detect warning signs of heat stroke risks in advance by estimating changes in the rise of the core body temperature with pulse waves. To make this possible, we applied our algorithm developed with the help of University of Occupational Environment Health in Kyushu area. And Hamon technology I have explained earlier with acquired heart rate data from our smartware and the data analysis system into this new device. All you need is to put it on your wrist. No smartware, no transmitter, no internet connection are needed. Anyone can use it anytime, anywhere to protect yourself and loved one from heat stroke risks. Last but not least, what we aim is to understand undetected research and sudden change in the physical condition by acquiring continuous and accurate our vital data on a daily basis. We believe we can use this mechanism to solve the various social issues and looking for companies to collaborate and to conquer the challenges by using our various materials, wearable products, and technologies, and UX. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed for your insights. Mitsufuji has obviously come a very, very long way since 1956. What you're doing now really takes that whole idea of wearable technology to a new level. And as you said with your use cases, Hamon obviously has so much potential to transform health and well-being technology. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about it in our Q&A in a few minutes' time. For now, though, we have one final presentation for today. Allow me to hand over to Tsubasa Sugai, CEO of SpiceCube. So I'll hand over to you.
Nice to meet you, Tsubasa Sugai from SpiceCube.
Okay, let me start our presentation. I'm Hiroki from SpiceCube. Let me share my screen. Our aim is to achieve agriculture anywhere in the world. SpiceCube is the startup company creating the new plant factory. Plant factory that can be used not only in agriculture but also in your home and offices. SpiceCube supports not only agriculture support for plant factories, but also SpiceCube supports agriculture equipment design for various fields. And our company was established in February 14, 2018, 3 years ago. And we have invested $10,000, and we have 4 good members as of September 2021. And our office is from Osaka, and our CEO Tsubasa loves Kyoto very much. Well, let me explain our technology of plant factories. We use this in not only agriculture technology but also industrial technology. Can you see this design? This design, and you can see plant factory, solar power system, air conditioning management, remote monitoring. Both of them are related in the smart cities, and our business matches smart cities very well. And we have 3 key points of technology. First, our technology is independent of the natural environment. Plant technology we can produce in the plant factory, and we also keep the quality because we can produce vegetables even in our house and in our offices. And the next point is our technology can expect to contribute to society. We can contribute to the problem about food self-sufficiency that can be that program are seen in various countries, and also we can realize the employment of people with disabilities. The third point is we can use vacant factories, and you don't have to have farmlands, and you can start your business with our plant factory anywhere, even in your house and even in your offices. So you can start your business just by just putting the plant factory, and you can turn it into a field anywhere. Um, the plant equipment can grow vegetables with water and electricity. And you can see the size of our factory. The size of our plant factory is as small as a bookshelf. So you can grow vegetables as you put your books around your home. This is the home of Mr. Tsubasa. The left is Tsubasa's wife, and the right is the son of the Tsubasa. And vegetables are growing up together with all of them, and the families moved every day with vegetables growing up. Of course, vegetables grows up faster than his son. You can use effectively your house, even your house has dead spaces, so you can enjoy and be moved with our plant factories. And also, if restaurants introduce our plant factory, they can produce vegetables locally, and people can also consume vegetables locally. This is the image of China store or restaurants that introduce our plant factories. And also, Spice Cube can also contribute to SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, through agriculture and forestry cooperation projects, and people with disabilities who cannot go outside their home can also play an active role even in their home. So Spice Cube is to Spice Cube is to achieve agriculture anywhere in the world. Thank you for your attention. That's all.
Thank you very much indeed, Hiroki and Tsubasa. What Spice Cube is doing is really important in bringing the agricultural industry to areas that naturally don't lend themselves to it and to that growth, and also in supporting those businesses that are trying to launch plant factories, for example, from scratch. So it is really, really fascinating stuff, which reminds me that you can find out more about all of our featured startups here online at smartcitiesworld.net with our latest special report, which is called the Kyoto Startups Shaping Smart and Sustainable Cities. So do go there to find out more about our featured companies today. One of my colleagues will drop a link in the chat box so you can find that. But that does bring us to an end for our presentations. Thanks everybody for all of your insights so far, and for the audience for submitting your questions, which we're going to come to a few of them now, those that haven't already been answered in the chat. A reminder, you can still submit your questions even while we're in discussions now, so keep your queries coming in. We'll answer as many as we can. We're going to run over the hour a little bit, I think, but bear with us to get those answers. So I have a question for each of you, and I'll start again with Hiroyuki Suzuki. to begin with and run through in the same order that the presentations were delivered in. So the first thing I wanted to ask really is we saw a lot in your presentation about the various projects and how Keihanna Science City is really scaling. I just want to know what the future holds for the city and what comes next for you.
Okay, we do not support financially except Cosine Plus, but we can support as much as possible to find your partners in industries and in financial sectors to expand your business in Japan. Okay, that's what we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And that in so many ways is just as important as that financial support in getting a foothold in your respective market and industry. So that is fantastic. Robert, I will come to you next for AC Bio.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You know, at the moment, there's so much emphasis and focus on kind of clean and green technologies. How important is something like the AC Biolet going to be in the fight to save the planet, and what role does the company play in that?
That's a fantastic question, because that's exactly where we stand. For us, it's all about filling those gaps. There are huge amounts of resources being mobilized for carbon emissions and saving, and carbon taxes. And the focus is always all these big organizations for good reason. They're focusing on what are the biggest impacts we can have, and subsequently those the steel industry and the travel industry, they get so much attention, so much investment, and this is very important we deal with that. But that means that the smaller areas that are harder to tackle because they're not easy to reach, it's not that scalable, maybe it's not that high tech, so the investors don't see their money coming back there quickly. They're actually missing out on huge problem solving potential that we are addressing. So we're looking at these niche things like those off the grid technologies where there is not even a single organization that can tell you, oh, there are this many thousands or millions of opportunities, because it's really about, we need to go in there one by one, find the national parks on the construction sites, and there's no single way of measuring that as well. So it is not a convenient thing to address in terms of environmental sustainability, but it is it's just huge in how much there is all around the world, and especially we're talking about developing countries as well, where there's not that much money, there's not the focus there, but we can have a huge impact there, and that's what AC Bio is doing with AC Biolet. Yeah,
absolutely. It is so important. It's something that I think we all take for granted in cities and built up areas, but it's something that we're also used to that we wouldn't necessarily consider it. So seeing some of those use cases and understanding, some of the difficulties in trying to roll this out is
exactly
really,
it's
really
also
crucial.
That cities, right? The focus is always in cities, and that's where most of the population, it's just all the decision making and all the money is in the cities, but half the world's population is still lives not in cities. And yes, there is a movement towards cities, but there will always be a huge amount of people living in the countryside. And I think there will also in the near future be more of a shift back to people actually moving out of cities for good reasons, lifestyle and health and living in the nature. So that's also something we want to see, because this is good for the planet, it's good for sustainability, not when 20 million people clustering in a very small area. So it's a good movement. If we make the countryside more attractive and more high tech, people will move there, and this is a good development for the planet.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, and be fascinated to see how those trends develop over time. So thank you very much indeed. Lotfi, I'm going to come to you next. Openness is obviously, really at the heart of what you do. How important do you feel that approach is going to be, your approach to the future of automation and robotics across all sorts of industries?
The thing is, we are in the middle of a big revolution with AI and robotics being a very practical application of AI. So both fields are very connected together, but also they are actually very, let's say, vast. It's very hard to be an expert in AI, like an expert in robotics. So everyone has a very specific area of expertise. And that's why open source solution actually can be the glue between all these expertise to glue like patented innovation, like closed source and protected with other system. And we believe, at least at CoRobotJK, we believe that introducing such kind of openness and also a little bit of knowledge sharing driven way of innovation and collaboration between industry and academia is important. So of course we understand that we have to develop a business system for us. So we have also like some IPs and business secrets we want to keep for us. But we believe also that there is always a part that can be open, so that with other people we can build something even stronger. And that's a philosophy that is very, let's say, common that you can observe in robotics competitions. We are all competitors, but we are also together, like trying to solve the same issue. So although we are competing, usually, we share knowledge, we share know-hows and also software. And, as I said, our background is coming from this robotics competition, tackling state-of-the-art issues. And I hope that we can bring the same kind of philosophy and motivation as a bridge between industry and academic, academia and universities or research groups. So this is what we believe. I'm not saying it's the only solution and the ultimate key to solve all the problems, but I think that bringing more openness and to share more knowledge between experts can, make something that is even bigger than just adding pieces together. So that's what we believe.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an easy thing to get on board with. I think that information sharing across so many industries is going to be crucial to solving some of the biggest challenges that we face today as a planet, I suppose.
It is also very challenging in a way. So that's why without a proper, let's say, framework or proper like communication channels and let's say established method, we cannot do it efficiently. So that's why also at CoRobotJK we provide such kind of framework and platform to more efficiently share our knowledge in a way that we are also like protecting our IP. So this is what we're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great to hear. Thank you very much indeed for your insight and your answer. Soji, I'm going to come to you next. What I want to know is, obviously, design thinking is core, as you said, to your business model. What difference is that approach making in terms of the way that you're able to work with your partners and then collect and analyze and really react to the voice of consumer data that your clients are working with?
Yeah, thanks. Right. So obviously, design thinking is the approach to try to involve all different users involved in this VOC. So for example, that we work with the Kyoto city. This is the initiative that Kyoto city tried to collect the voice of tourists or citizens visiting the restaurants and taking a survey and then give that opinions to the Kyoto, that kind of initiative, right? So within this is is a Kyoto the data analytics and also the each facility to collect the data, and then citizens giving a voice, and then also tourists. So all different users for both those who giving the data and also collecting data. And design thinking is the process, takes some time, but first of all, to involve everyone at the beginning to get all interviewed. What motivates you, give the answer, what help you to collect the data. So from data collection, management, analyzing, and sharing, utilize. Those process has a different, type of challenging. And then so it's as a system developer, the easier to understand, to develop the solution first, starting from the actual needs, and then from the start to the end. And then also for those involved the design thinking program, they think this is the project for themselves, not something that they are forced to do. So they think this is a more personal initiative. So that's help. And then that includes those, the Kyoto restaurant owner who never ever collect that voice of consumer data. But for the first time, they see that, that dashboard, which is that we create the visualization who can be accessible to anyone who never, collect the data. So, that's what is available for data scientists or for those data analysts. That's easy, but what makes this success is that anyone involved is the data platform have to be involved from the start to the end. So in the end, design thinking approach, I believe that because that's, especially dealing with this voice of consumer data in all different type of users, this inclusive co-creation model, I think works, and that's something we do in each local government, because each local government is different users type, user needs. So same platform, but that the same approach, but that all different type. That's kind of fascinating to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, it's so important for organizations to get closer to their consumers, and this is such a fantastic way of being able to do that and really understand how to change things to really make a difference to people's lives, which is fantastic. So thank you very much indeed. Ayumu, I'm going to come to you next, and what I want to ask about Mitsufuji Corporation is, obviously we said what you're doing really takes that wearable technology to a new level. I'd like to ask what you have planned next, and where the company's heading.
Luke-san, let me answer to your question on behalf of Ayumu.
Absolutely.
Okay, as you gave us your comments saying, the wearable has gone to new levels, right? And then we're not only focusing on the health and the well-beings, but aiming to expand our business to medical fields, as well as, as well. And of course, we will need to develop our technology and obtain a certification like in FDAs for our products. That's what we're thinking.
That's fantastic. I think we'll all be really, really excited to see what happens next, because it really is so innovative, and as Ayumu said in the presentation, a world first in so many ways. So thank you very, very much. Finally,
thank you very much.
I'll come to Hiroki, who was speaking on behalf of SpiceCube, just simply to ask where our viewers can find out more information about SpiceCube and what they can do to enhance their knowledge about the company.
Okay, sure. Let me share my screen again. You can get information from here. The email is just a moment, please.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay.
The information is in the chat box, the website, and the contact information as well. So if you want to find out more, then by all means go and take a look. Thank you very much indeed, Hiroki, and Tsubasa as well for your time. That brings us to a close on this Smart Cities World webinar in conjunction with Jetro. I want to thank all of our speakers so much for their presentations and their insights, taking the time out to be with us this morning, this evening, this afternoon, wherever you might be, and say thanks a well to our audience for sticking with us, even though we are a few minutes over. Thanks a lot for all of your questions and all of your interest. Don't forget to check out the latest special report on Smart Cities World, and we will see you next time. Thank you very much, everybody.